Record high temperatures have plants in West Michigan already blooming, including Holland's tulips. Coming up, I'll tell you why the city wants you to visit Tulip Time twice. In the meantime, Grand Rapids police have not determined who set fire to the condominium and sent the threatening letters. They are, however, offering up to $20,000 in reward money for any information leading to an arrest. In Grand Rapids, Jamie Innes, GV10 News. An officer in Grand Rapids arrived just in time to save a life, and it all happened on tape. $30 to 60 years is how much time Robert Gaines will spend behind bars for killing a young girl. When Robert Gaines walked into the courtroom today, there was great anticipation on two levels. First, what his sentence would be, and second, would Gaines admit he pulled the trigger to kill 8-year-old Latavia Johnson, a girl who was getting cookies and milk out of her refrigerator that December night in 1993. We learned very quickly in this Robert Gaines wasn't taking responsibility at all.
At the same time, I had nothing to do with this.
In fact, there's still a debated question who really pulled the trigger of that gun that night, the shot that killed Latavia. Gaines' attorney told the court Bobby Brown was the trigger man that night. Most believe it was Gaines. Family members, despite the finality, may always have questions about this.
He did it. You know why he did it? He had 18 years to come forward to say he did not have nothing to do with her murder. He had every bit and every time and every chance to come forward to set his name straight. He didn't set his name straight. He knew what he did. He did it. He pulled that trigger.
In reality, Gaines could have gotten as little as 10 years in prison. The judge deviated way up on that. The sentence 30 to 60 years as the judge blamed Gaines for slaughtering the girl.
We always pray for this day to come.
After the hearing, family members were relieved that Gaines at least apologized for not being honest with detectives over the years.
I mean his apology, because if he meant what he said, he would have looked at my mother and apologized to her, not the judge.
The other suspect, Bobby Brown, will serve at least 23 years for his role in the crime. In Grand Rapids, Jamie Innes, News Channel 3. Good evening. We have the story of what happened in the fire this morning. The homeowner says he should have been killed, but is alive to tell us what really happened. You can't blame Paul Preston for being extremely bitter, hurt during a fight.
When he and I were fighting, he was on top of me, smacking me.
He barely escaped a fire. The house he owns is destroyed, and one of his renters is dead.
I have no use for him. None. I don't ever want to see him again. If I got to go to court, I don't want to go to court. He killed that girl. I don't need to talk. I don't need to tell them anything else. He killed the girl. Period.
The victim's been identified by several sources as Corey Van Hully. She was renting a room with her boyfriend here. There were 5 people in the house at the time this happened. Everybody got out alive except for Corey. Preston says another renter at the house, 62-year-old Michael Peranian, went nuts. Preston thinks he set fire to the basement steps and then went to beat up Preston's caretaker, a 55-year-old woman, with a club. Preston says he wanted to beat up people and let the house burn. Preston jumped on Peranian to stop him, he says, as the fire was burning.
He's a moron, a psycho moron, through and through.
He crawled out of the house. 3 others did too, including Peranian, who is now a murder suspect. Today, News Channel 3 got a close look at the damage, a huge hole in the ground. We looked through a window. In one bedroom, the only item not burned, a picture on the wall with the Lord's Prayer on it. But even though Preston survived, he says there was no miracle here. This was murder.
Whether he did it with that club or the fire got her, take your pick. Take your pick.
The suspect turned himself in right after the fire this morning. An autopsy is being done to determine the actual cause of death. In Sparta Township, Jamie Innes, News Channel 3. Folks around here say it's a matter of life and death, especially with the colder temperatures coming. A court ruling today gives homeless sex offenders another choice. After all these years and all the work, a victory of sorts for those who never want to see what happened to him in 2009 happen to anybody else.
You know, it's easy to say they've paid their debt to society, but that follows them wherever they go.
And for Thomas Pauley, a homeless sex offender, it followed him to his grave. He froze to death after being denied admission to Dégagé Ministries to stay the night, all because Dégagé is 1,000 feet from a school within a safety zone mandated by law.
We want people to be able to move forward and to get treatment and to get the help they need, but when society does not allow them any of those opportunities, it cripples them.
Not anymore. A federal judge decided sex offenders should be allowed to stay in facilities like Mel Trotter and Dégagé if they're admitted in the evening and leave in the morning. Leaders at Dégagé and Mel Trotter both think these offenders won't re-offend.
I do not feel that there is any harm or danger.
No question it's a win in court for these folks, but they'll tell you few are celebrating. After all, last night at Mel Trotter, get this, in a space that houses some 92 men, they had 170 men in the facility, preparing to make even more room for sex offenders, all to remember a man denied.
Understand how society feels about the crime of sexual predator or sexual offense, but again, we're here to provide shelter for those who would otherwise be without.
The case was originally brought forth by 4 sex offenders, all of which said they feared they could die on the streets. In Grand Rapids, Jamie Innes, News Channel 3. Good evening. For Pete Hoekstra, the question is, will his new commercial during the Super Bowl actually be a game changer for his campaign? It's a bit of a secret right now what exactly some pregame Super Bowl viewers are going to see from Pete Hoekstra during the big game. The former congressman, though, gave us a hint of what we'll see.
Game on. Let's have this debate about how we bring Michigan back. Let's have this debate about what policies are going to lead to job creation and a better life for Michigan workers.
In a one-on-one interview with the man who many believe will easily win the GOP primary this summer to face Democrat Debbie Stabenow, Hoekstra told us why it was necessary to buy during the most expensive advertising time of the year.
Democrats coming out and saying, and putting focus on this ad says it's got their attention. And if it's got their attention, we must be doing something right.
Democrats don't exactly feel the same way, though. Leaders in that party are calling the ad buy half-hearted, and they wonder if it really will make much of a difference. Hoekstra bought time statewide, and some Democrats feel he's wasting his money with it. We asked Hoekstra to respond to that criticism.
You're going to produce an ad, you're going to do it right. But the message is not about show. It is about content. It is about Debbie's record. Nothing more, nothing less.
Stabenow's campaign manager says that Hoekstra is merely glossing over his own record with what they perceive as a massive image overhaul. In Grand Rapids, Jamie Innes, News Channel 3. The founder of Art Prize, Rick DeVos, brings a new idea-based competition to West Michigan. The 5x5 night is a monthly trial of ideas by local entrepreneurs, ideas ranging from business startups to community activities. The first round of presentations starts tonight at 5:30 at the Grand Rapids Art Museum. Over 200 applications were pared down to 5 ideas. The presenters get 5 minutes in front of 5 judges for the chance to win up to $5,000. The event will take place the last Tuesday of every month.